If you want your motorcycle to survive, pay attention. Some riders barely make it to 20,000 miles before things start failing. And then there are riders cruising past 100,000, 150,000, even 200,000 miles without a single major rebuild. The difference isn't luck, it's habits. In this video, you'll learn the exact things long-term riders do that keep their engines alive, and the mistakes that quietly destroy most bikes long before their time. So before we start, hit subscribe if you want your bike to outlive the average owner. Habit number 1. Change the oil before it's due. If there's one habit that separates high-mileage motorcycles from the ones that die young, it's this. Don't wait for the oil change interval. Stay ahead of it. Most riders follow the manual like it's a legal contract. But what those numbers don't tell you is how you ride. Short trips, hot weather, dusty roads, high RPM riding. All of that breaks oil down faster than the manufacturer ever assumes. And when the oil breaks down, friction goes up. Friction means heat. And heat is what destroys bearings, piston rings, and the inside of your engine long before you ever expect it. Long-term riders don't wait for the oil to get old. They refresh it early to prevent the microscopic wear that eventually becomes catastrophic. The filter matters just as much. A clean filter removes metal shavings and debris before they can circulate and grind away at your engine. So if you want long engine life, start early. Fresh oil isn't just maintenance, it's insurance. Habit number 2. Never ignore the air filter. Engines don't just run on fuel, they run on air. And the quality of that air matters more than most riders realize. A neglected or clogged air filter forces the engine to breathe through restricted airflow, which means your bike works harder, runs hotter, and burns fuel less efficiently. But the real danger isn't the reduced power. It's what happens when that filter gets dirty, damaged, or ignored for too long. A worn filter allows microscopic dust, dirt, and sand to slip past and enter the combustion chamber. Once that happens, the inside of your engine becomes a grinding machine. Those tiny particles mix with the oil, turning it into abrasive paste that wears down piston rings, cylinder walls, and valves. Over time, compression drops, fuel economy suffers, and the engine loses performance permanently. High-mileage riders don't wait until something feels wrong. They clean, inspect, and replace their air filters regularly, especially after dusty rides or long touring seasons. A clean air filter isn't just maintenance. It protects the heart of your engine. Ignore it, and you shorten your motorcycle's life with every ride. Habit number 3. Respect engine temperature. Warm up and cool down. Engines hate extremes, especially when they're cold or overheated. One of the fastest ways to shorten a motorcycle's life is to fire it up and immediately rev it like you're late for something. Metal components inside the engine expand as they heat up, and when the engine is cold, nothing is seated the way it should be. Clearances are tight, oil hasn't fully circulated, and every high RPM throttle twist causes unnecessary wear. High-mileage riders know the routine. Start the bike, let it idle just long enough for the oil to move through the system, then ride gently for the first few minutes. Not sitting and waiting forever, just allowing the engine to reach operating temperature under light load. Cooling down matters too. After long highway runs or high RPM riding, shutting the engine off immediately traps heat inside the head, oil pathways, and bearings. A minute of gentle riding, or a short idle, helps dissipate that heat naturally. Engines that are warmed up before being pushed and given a moment to relax afterward simply last longer. Treat the temperature right, and the engine will return the favor mile after mile. Habit number 4. Stop riding at red line. All the time. Your motorcycle engine can hit red line, but that doesn't mean it should live there. Rev limiters are a safety boundary, not a recommended operating range. Constantly riding at or near redline puts enormous stress on internal components. Valves are opening and closing at extreme speeds. Bearings are under maximum load, and oil has less time to circulate properly. Every burst at the limiter may feel exciting, but it's also shaving lifespan off the engine. High-mileage riders understand balance. They still enjoy power and acceleration, but they don't force the engine to scream just to cruise or accelerate gently. The sweet spot for engine longevity is typically the mid-range, where torque is strong, mechanical stress is manageable, and the engine runs efficiently. Occasional high RPM runs won't kill a healthy engine. In fact, it can help burn carbon deposits. But making redline your normal riding zone turns wear into damage. So ride smart. Use the power when you need it, not constantly. Your engine will thank you with smoother performance, less fatigue, and a much longer life. Habit number 5. Don't lug the engine either. If constantly revving near redline is bad, riding at the opposite extreme can be just as damaging. Lugging the engine happens when you stay in too high a gear while accelerating or riding at low RPM. It might feel calm and fuel efficient, but inside the engine, it's anything but gentle. When RPM is too low, the engine struggles to produce enough power, and that stress gets transferred into the crankshaft, bearings, and connecting rods. Instead of smooth, balanced motion, the motor experiences harsh vibration and uneven combustion. In some cases, the mixture can even detonate, also known as knocking, which creates sharp pressure spikes that hammer internal components. High-mileage riders don't force their engine to work harder than necessary. They downshift when needed and keep the RPM in a healthy range where power delivery is smooth and mechanical strain is minimal. It's not about revving high. It's about keeping the engine where it runs happiest. Avoid lugging, and your engine will run smoother, stay cooler, and wear far more slowly. Shift smart, and you'll feel and hear the difference. Habit number 6. Stay on top of coolant and overheating. Heat is one of the biggest enemies of engine longevity, and your cooling system is the frontline defense. Many bikes that fail early weren't destroyed on the road. They were slowly damaged by repeated overheating. Coolant isn't just colored liquid sitting in the radiator. It regulates engine temperature, prevents corrosion, lubricates the water pump, and keeps internal passages clean over time. It breaks down, becomes acidic, and loses its ability to transfer heat effectively. High-mileage riders don't wait for warning lights or steam from the radiator. They check coolant levels regularly, inspect hoses for cracks, clean radiators of dirt and bugs, and flush the system at proper intervals. A low coolant level or clogged radiator can raise operating temperatures dramatically, and repeated overheating can warp heads, damage gaskets, and shorten the life of internal components. And if your bike has a temperature gauge, pay attention to it. If the needle climbs higher than normal, don't ignore it. Back off, find airflow, or shut the bike down if needed. A healthy cooling system keeps your engine alive. Ignore it, and heat will do the rest. Habit number 7. Chain and sprocket care, or final drive if shaft cracks or belt. Your motorcycle's drivetrain is where power meets the pavement, and how well you maintain it determines not only smooth performance, but also how much stress transfers back into the engine. A neglected chain that's dry, rusty, or stretched doesn't just wear out faster. It puts unnecessary load on the transmission and output shaft bearings, which can lead to expensive repairs no rider wants to face. High-mileage riders make chain care a routine, not a chore. They clean off dirt and grit, lubricate regularly, and keep tension within spec, not too tight, not too loose. A chain that's overly tight strains bearings and seals, while one that's too loose slaps around and accelerates wear on both the chain and sprockets. If your bike uses a belt or shaft drive, the same principle applies. Maintenance matters. Belts should be inspected for cracks and proper alignment. Shaft drives need periodic fluid changes to protect gears and splines. A well-maintained final drive makes your bike feel smoother, quieter, and more responsive, and it protects the mechanical heart of the machine. Treat it right, and it will easily reward you with thousands of trouble-free miles. Habit number 8. Tire pressure and suspension. Not just for comfort. Most riders think tire pressure and suspension settings are about comfort or handling, but they play a much bigger role in how long your motorcycle lasts. Incorrect tire pressure affects more than just grip. Underinflated tires create excessive drag, forcing the engine to work harder, run hotter, and burn more fuel. Overinflated tires reduce contact with the road, causing uneven wear and transmitting more shock into the frame, wheels, and bearings. Suspension matters just as much. When forks and shocks are worn, poorly adjusted, or neglected, every bump becomes a direct hit to the chassis bearings, wheels, steering head components, and even the engine mounting points absorb repeated impact over thousands of miles. That constant vibration and stress accelerates wear everywhere, not just in the suspension itself. High-mileage riders regularly check tire pressure, adjust suspension preload to match their weight and riding style, and service fork oil or rear shocks when required. They know the bike works as a system, not as separate parts. Keeping your suspension healthy and your tires properly inflated protects far more than comfort. It protects the structure. Habit number 9. Brake and clutch fluid, the forgotten lifesavers. Brake and clutch fluid don't get the same attention as oil or filters, yet they play a critical role in both safety and longevity. Over time, hydraulic fluid absorbs moisture from the air, even inside a closed system. That moisture lowers the fluid's boiling point and creates internal corrosion. Rust inside brake lines, calipers, master cylinders, and clutch systems isn't just ugly. It's damaging, and eventually expensive. When brake fluid gets old, your brakes require more pressure to work, and under hard use, the fluid can overheat and cause brake fade, where the lever feels soft and stopping power drops dramatically. The same principle applies to hydraulic clutches. Old or contaminated clutch fluid reduces responsiveness, increases wear on seals, and can eventually lead to complete failure of the system. Long-term riders bleed and replace these fluids on schedule, sometimes even sooner if they ride year-round, live in humid climates, or ride aggressively. Fresh fluid means consistent performance, smooth lever action, and far less internal wear. It's simple. These systems protect you and your machine. Ignore them, and sooner or later, they'll remind you the hard way. Habit number 10. Check valve clearances on schedule. Valve adjustments are one of those maintenance tasks many riders delay because the bike still sounds fine. But valves don't warn you loudly when they're out of spec. They quietly drift over time. And when that gap becomes too tight or too loose, the damage begins long before symptoms appear. If the clearance becomes too tight, the valves may not fully close. That means the engine loses proper compression, and hotter gases can leak past the valve face. Over thousands of miles, that heat burns the valves and seats, leading to poor performance, hard starting, and eventually a costly head rebuild. On the opposite side, excessive clearance increases noise, reduces efficiency, and causes the cam and valve train to take repeated mechanical impacts they weren't designed for. High-mileage riders don't skip this step. They check valve clearances at the recommended intervals, sometimes earlier if the bike is ridden aggressively or in extreme temperatures. A proper valve adjustment keeps the engine breathing perfectly, reduces mechanical stress, and maintains smooth power delivery. It's not glamorous, and it's not quick, but it's one of the most important long-term investments you can make in your motorcycle's lifespan. Habit number 11. Use decent fuel and avoid detonation. Fuel quality isn't just about performance. It directly affects engine health. Cheap or low-octane fuel can cause a problem known as detonation or knocking, where the air-fuel mixture ignites unevenly or too early. Instead of a smooth burn, the combustion turns into a violent shock wave that hammers pistons, rings, and bearings. Over time, that constant internal impact can lead to pitted piston crowns, overheated spark plugs, damaged valves, and even cracked ringlands. Modern engines are designed to handle different fuel grades, but that doesn't mean all fuel is equal. If your bike requires premium, use premium, especially in hot climates, loaded touring, or high RPM riding, where detonation risk increases. Even if your motorcycle can run on regular, poor quality or stale fuel, can still cause carbon buildup, clogged injectors, and reduced efficiency. High-mileage riders keep fuel fresh, avoid bargain gas stations with questionable quality, and occasionally run fuel system cleaners to maintain proper spray patterns and combustion. They know the engine performs best when the combustion is controlled, clean, and consistent. Put good fuel in your motorcycle, and the engine will run smoother, stay cooler, and last far longer. Skimp on fuel, and the damage adds up quietly, mile after mile. Habit number 12. Ride it regularly. Don't let it rot. Surprisingly, many motorcycles don't die from being ridden hard. They die from not being ridden at all. Engines are designed to move, heat up, cycle oil, and burn fuel. When a bike sits for weeks or months at a time, fluids break down, moisture builds up, and corrosion quietly starts eating away at metal surfaces. Rubber seals dry out, fuel becomes stale or turns to varnish, and batteries weaken or fail entirely. Regular riding keeps everything alive. It circulates oil to lubricate seals and bearings, burns off moisture in the exhaust and crankcase, and keeps the fuel system clear. Even a short ride every week or two helps maintain proper function across the entire machine, from injectors to brake components to suspension seals. High-mileage motorcycles usually belong to riders who treat their machines like transportation, not decoration. They don't let them sit through entire seasons untouched. Even during winter or slow periods, they take quick rides or at least warm the bike up properly and move it. A motorcycle is a machine meant to run, not to collect dust. Ride it often, and it will reward you with reliability, smooth performance, and a dramatically longer lifespan. Habit number 13. Store it properly when you don't ride. Even if you ride regularly, there will be times when the bike has to sit. Winter, travel, or just life getting in the way. And how your motorcycle is stored during those periods determines whether it wakes up ready to ride, or greets you with problems, leaks, and corrosion. Long-term riders prepare their bikes before parking them. They stabilize or replace the fuel so it doesn't turn to varnish and clog injectors or carbs. They change the oil. So old, acidic fluid doesn't sit on engine internals. The battery is either removed or connected to a smart tender so it doesn't slowly drain and die. Tires are inflated properly, or even lifted off the ground to prevent flat spots. Moisture is the silent killer of stored motorcycles. A dry, sheltered location matters far more than a fancy cover. Bikes stored outside or in damp garages are the first to suffer rusted chains, corroded fasteners, and electrical issues. Proper storage isn't complicated. It's just intentional. Do a few simple steps before parking your bike long-term, and it'll fire up strong the next time you turn the key. Ignore them, and storage becomes slow, silent damage. Habit number 14. Keep it clean to fight rust and corrosion. Keeping a motorcycle clean isn't about looks, it's about protection. Dirt, grime, salt, and moisture act like slow-working sandpaper and acid combined. They sit in hidden corners, trap moisture, and slowly invite rust and corrosion into metal parts, fasteners, electrical connectors, the chain, and even the frame. What starts as a little dirt can eventually become seized bolts, pitted surfaces, and damaged wiring, the kinds of problems that make maintenance harder and shorten the life of the bike. High-mileage riders wash their machines regularly, especially after riding in rain, salted roads, or dusty environments. But they do it smart, using gentle pressure, proper motorcycle safe cleaners, and avoiding blasting water directly into bearings, electronics, and seals. After washing, they dry the bike carefully and apply corrosion protectants, chain lube, and sometimes silicone spray on vulnerable surfaces. A clean bike is also easier to inspect. You'll spot minor oil leaks, loose fasteners, or worn components before they turn into major failures. You don't need a showroom shine, just consistent care. A clean motorcycle resists corrosion, operates smoother, and ages gracefully. Neglect it, and rust will remind you that time and weather always win when you don't maintain the fight. Habit number 15. Pre-ride inspections. Catch problems early. A motorcycle rarely fails without warning, but most riders miss the signs because they never check. A quick pre-ride inspection isn't about paranoia or wasting time. It's about catching small issues before they become dangerous or expensive. 2 minutes of awareness can prevent a roadside breakdown, a seized engine, or a crash. High-mileage riders develop a routine. Before riding, they glance at the tires for wear, cracks, or low pressure. They check the chain tension, look for leaks under the bike, and make sure the brakes feel firm, not soft or spongy. A quick check of lights, turn signals, and coolant level takes seconds, but can reveal problems early. Sometimes the warning signs are subtle. A new vibration, a slightly rough idle, a small puddle under the bike, or a strange smell after shutdown. Ignoring those signals is how minor maintenance becomes major repair. Catching problems early keeps you ahead of wear, not reacting to it. Treat your bike like equipment, not just transportation. A short inspection before each ride protects your machine, your wallet, and most importantly, you. Habit number 16. Fix little noises and leaks immediately. Motorcycles communicate, just not with words. A new sound, a slight vibration, or a small oil drip isn't random. It's your bike telling you something has changed. Too many riders brush off these early warning signs and keep riding, hoping the problem will disappear. But mechanical problems rarely fix themselves. They grow. A ticking noise might be a loose bolt, worn valve clearance, or failing cam chain tensioner. A vibration could mean an unbalanced wheel, loose hardware, or a failing bearing. A small oil leak today may turn into a major seal failure tomorrow. Each of these issues is cheaper and easier to fix when caught early, and significantly more costly if ignored. High-mileage riders don't wait for parts to fail dramatically. They chase down small problems as soon as they appear. They tighten hardware, replace worn components, and stop leaks before they become messy or dangerous. Think of it like this. Every unusual sound or new leak is a clue. Address it early, and you extend your motorcycle's life. Ignore it, and you'll eventually pay in repairs or downtime. Habit number 17. Upgrade weak points instead of letting them fail. Every motorcycle has known weak spots, parts the manufacturer designed well enough for average use, but not for long-term mileage. These might be charging systems, fuel pumps, regulator or rectifiers, cam chain tensioners, suspension components, or even clutch baskets depending on the model. Riders who push their bikes past 100,000 miles don't just wait for these parts to fail. They upgrade them before they become a problem. When a component is known to break under stress, replacing it with a stronger aftermarket or updated OEM version can prevent multiple systems from being damaged. For example, a weak rectifier can overcharge or undercharge the battery, leading to electrical failures and premature stator burnout. A cheap chain tensioner can cause timing issues that eventually damage valves or pistons. Suspensions that are undersprung or underdamped from the factory can fatigue frames, wheels, and bearings over time. High-mileage riders pay attention to community feedback, service bulletins, and real-world experience from others who've pushed the same bike far. Instead of waiting for failure, they build reliability into the machine. Upgrading known weak points isn't modifying, it's future-proofing. Habit number 18. Ride like you want to keep the bike. Longevity isn't just about maintenance, it's also about mindset. Many motorcycles never reach high mileage not because of mechanical flaws, but because of how they're ridden. Aggressive riding, constant hard braking, wheelies, burnouts, and repeated abuse may feel exciting in the moment. But every one of those actions adds unnecessary stress to the engine, clutch, transmission, brakes, and chassis. High-mileage riders understand that smoothness equals longevity. They accelerate with intention, not aggression. They use the gears properly instead of dumping the clutch or forcing shifts. Braking is controlled and predictable, not a last-second panic grab. Suspension and tires last longer, the drivetrain stays healthier, and the entire bike experiences less mechanical shock. This doesn't mean riding slow or never having fun. It means riding smart. Use power when you need it, not every time the light turns green. Respect the machine, and avoid treating it like a disposable toy. A motorcycle that's ridden smoothly doesn't just last longer. It feels better, performs better, and gives fewer surprises. Ride like you plan to own the bike for years, and it will stay with you for the long haul. Most motorcycles aren't built to fail. They're built to last. But whether your bike dies young or becomes one of those rare high-mileage legends, comes down to habits like these. Take care of the basics, fix problems early, ride with respect, and your motorcycle will reward you with reliability, performance, and years of unforgettable miles. If you learned something useful today, hit like, subscribe, and share this with a rider who needs it. Ride safe, ride smart, and treat your bike like it's worth keeping.